listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky Duraeus. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky Duraeus, right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here to review Monday Night Raw from February 27th, 2023. What can I say about this show? This was, to be quite honest with you, the most boring Raw that I have seen in weeks. This show was so boring, I just did not care at all about the majority of the things that I watched on this show. I'm being honest with you guys, man. 3 hours of wrestling, and I talk about this almost every week on the show. 3 hours of television wrestling just does not cut it. The show's just too damn long, in my opinion. And really, that struggle, in my opinion, kicks in from that 9 to 10 hour. Then things would probably start picking up around the 10 o'clock hour. But honestly, man, this show, I just did not care at all about the majority of the things that were happening. Of course, the only really important things that happened on this show was Cody Rhodes versus Chad Gable, the Brock Lesnar and Omos stuff. Yes, Brock Lesnar and Omos is actually official for WrestleMania, and I'll be talking about that. Also, Becky Lynch and Lita winning the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. What are my thoughts on that? I could honestly care less because I genuinely believe that the Women's Tag Team titles has no direction whatsoever. But overall, this was a very, 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 and I mean very boring episode of Raw, to be quite honest with you. Let's be real, folks. Raw is no longer the flagship. You know, WWE can tout at the fact that Raw is the flagship, but let's be real with ourselves here. The real WWE show nowadays is SmackDown. SmackDown is where really all the magic happens. And even then, SmackDown does have its hits, and they also have their misses. But honestly, a lot of stuff is happening on SmackDown this coming Friday. Of course, we are going to be getting Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns finally in the same ring at the same time on SmackDown, which I'm very, 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 very excited about. But overall, I thought the show was pretty much a disappointment, in my opinion. But yeah, before I get on with all of this craziness, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the WrestleHavoc Podcast is also available on audio platforms. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to listen to the WrestleHavoc Podcast in audio format, it is available on all of those platforms. Also, quick reminder, once again, that Ring of Honor is going to be returning this coming Thursday, and I have been hearing a lot of good things about Ring of Honor coming off the first few episode tapings of Ring of Honor this past weekend. So, on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, I will be starting Ring of Honor reviews right here on the channel. Yes, that is right. Ring of Honor is coming back, and I'm going to be giving you guys my honest thoughts about Ring of Honor this coming Friday, March 3rd, right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. So be on the lookout for the Ring of Honor wrestling review. It should be a good one. Of course, we are also on the road to Revolution. I also need to remind you guys that most likely the WrestleHavoc Podcast will still be up on the weekend, but not on Sunday. Most likely on Saturday, considering the fact that Revolution is on a Sunday. So most likely I will give you guys the next episode of the WrestleHavoc Podcast on Saturday this weekend as well. I will be giving you guys my predictions for this Sunday's Revolution pay-per-view, which is actually on my birthday. Of course, the main event is going to be the generational talent, the AEW World Champion MJF, defending his title against the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, in a 60-minute Iron Man match, and that should be A very, very, very good match. And a lot of people, as I've stated on my Dynamite review, are going to shut the hell up after talking so much shit about MJF after that Iron Man match is over. But let's talk about Raw. As I stated at the top of this review, this show has been primarily boring throughout the majority of this episode. I'm being honest, man. Again, most of the important stuff to really happens on SmackDown. SmackDown is clearly, if you compare Raw and SmackDown, SmackDown is clearly the better show. Is SmackDown perfect? No, it still has its ups, and it also still has a lot of downs. But clearly, it's a much easier show to digest rather than Raw. Raw, on the other hand, it's just like, oh my God, they just got to put stuff on the show for the sake of putting stuff on the show. I mean, the show is 3 hours. I mean, they have no choice. But again, 3 hours of wrestling does not cut it. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, but you're excited about the AEW pay-per-view, and that AEW pay-per-view goes too long. Yes, you're right. The AEW pay-per-views are very much long, and also I complain about those as well. You know, I complain about everything on this channel. I think AEW pay-per-view shouldn't be that long. Same thing, I feel like Raw should be 2 hours, but clearly Raw is not going to be 2 hours any day, any other day. It's just not going to be 2 hours anymore, clearly. But Raw overall was a fine show. Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa kick off the show. Of course, Jimmy Uso is in the middle of all this tension going on when it comes to the Bloodline and Sami Zayn. Of course, this past Friday on SmackDown, he cut a promo basically wanting Jay back. And Jay actually showed up, but then Sami Zayn showed up, and basically, you know, both went back and forth on the microphone. It was an absolutely fantastic segment. If you guys haven't checked out my SmackDown review, check that review out right here on the channel. The link will be in the description below. But he says, Grand Rapids, the Bloodline is now in your city. He knows what we are thinking. We're all thinking about the problems that are happening right now in the Bloodline. From the outside looking in, there's a lot of cracks in the Bloodline. But if we come to family that we live in, family fights all the time. We get a bunch of Sammy chants from the crowd. And then Jimmy says, if you come from one member, you come for all members. Kevin Owens tried to do that. Sami Zayn, in his hometown, tried to do that. Do you think it's going to happen to the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes? And we got a bunch of Cody chants. And he says, at WrestleMania, do we think he's going to get one over on the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns? Hell no. And speaking of him, he will be here this coming Friday. Tonight, him and Solo, they are here to remind everybody who runs Monday Night Raw. Everyone in that locker room, and as soon as he was continuing his promo, immediately the Street Profits come out and basically says, ooh, it's the Bloodline, basically kind of jokes around. They both run down both Jimmy and Jay. They talk about how they got Jimmy, they got Solo. Oh, they got Jay, but wait, Jay is not there. And then Montez Ford continues to add fuel to the fire and says, you can't really blame him either. I'd be tired of their ass too, which is absolutely hilarious. They then get in the ring, and they says that they can't even run their own damn family. They got some nerve to show up on their show. At that point, Jimmy gets pissed off and says that they're better off to keep Roman's name out of their mouth. And then Dawkins is like, or what? And then basically what happens is a brawl breaks loose between both teams. And then once we're back from commercial break, we got Solo Sikoa and Jey Uso versus the Street Profits. Overall, relatively good match. I really enjoyed the match. Nothing really special, though. I mean, we've seen the Street Profits and the Usos in action. Granted, it's not the Usos. It's Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. But overall, this is a pretty good match. Solo's in control over Dawkins. He sends him into the corner. We get a shoulder tackle by Angelo Dawkins, followed by a dropkick. Ford then makes the tag. He goes for the double dropkick, or I should say the Profits. Both Angelo and Montez go for the double dropkick. We get a shot to the back of Solo by Ford. He applies a side headlock on Solo Sikoa. Jimmy Uso then tags in, and he hits a sliding clothesline on Montez Ford. We get a cover and a near fall. Ford then later hits a dropkick. After that, we get a dropkick by Dawkins. At this point, Dawkins is the legal man. After that, we get a spinning splash into the corner, followed by an enziguri. Jimmy then regains control and hits a right hand. We get a side headlock takeover by Jimmy Uso. At this point, Solo is in control. Once we're back from break, Solo goes for the Samoan drop on Angelo Dawkins. We get a running hip attack in the corner. After that, Ford goes for the super kick. Or I should say, no. Solo actually goes for the super kick on Ford, but Ford wasn't the legal man. He actually got hit in the super kick when he was on the apron. After that, Ford gets taken to the outside. Solo then runs into a flying back elbow by Dawkins. At this point, Ford and Jimmy tag in. We get repeated rights, followed by a clothesline and an uppercut by Ford. We get a belly-to-back suplex by Ford, and he hits a standing moonsault on Jimmy. And we get a cover and a near fall. Ford then gets taken to the apron, and then we get a right hand on Jimmy. We get a running kick on Solo, followed by an enziguri on Jimmy Uso. At this point, Ford is on the top, but then Jimmy gets back up on his feet. Jimmy then goes for the enziguri, and then Jimmy goes to the second rope. He tries to go for the superplex, but then Ford goes for a headbutt, taking Jey Uso down, or Jimmy Uso down, I should say. My apologies. And then he hits the frog splash, and we get a cover and a near fall. Jimmy then goes for the right hand, and we get a kick by Ford, followed by a spinning kick by Jimmy. Ford goes for the enziguri, but then Jimmy picks him up. Ford escapes. Jimmy lands into a spine buster by Montez Ford. Great showing right there by Montez Ford. Then after that, Angelo Dawkins tags in. Dawkins gets Jimmy up on his shoulders. Ford goes to the top, but then Solo Sikoa interferes. He hits the super kick, followed by the Samoan spike, and we get a cover, and Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso win the match. Overall thoughts on this match. This was a pretty good match overall. I'm very much looking forward to see what is going to be happening on Friday, because clearly nothing really important is happening on this show. Of course, this coming Friday, Roman Reigns will be on the show, and we're going to see where Jey Uso lies as we head towards WrestleMania 39, because the rumored match most likely that will happen is going to be Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn taking on the Usos for the Unified Tag Team titles at WrestleMania. After the match, the heels continue to attack the Street Profits. Solo grabs a chair and he puts it on the head of Montez Ford. But what happens is KO immediately interferes out of nowhere. He basically hits a stunner on Jimmy, where he takes out Solo. He hits a stunner on Jimmy, and then he escapes. And that is that. So they're continuing the progression of the story when it comes to Kevin Owens. No Sami Zayn on this show, which really sucks in my opinion. No Sami Zayn on this show. But hopefully Sami Zayn, I mean, we know for a fact that Sami Zayn is going to be on the Friday show. But again, this is in progression of the story. Of course, Kevin Owens does not want any part of Sami Zayn because he wants to take out the Bloodline on his own. We got one segment that I thought started off really stupid and really bad to pretty entertaining, but the match that we are going to be getting at WrestleMania, I'm not very much excited about. Of course, what I am talking about is Brock Lesnar versus Omos. Yeah, Brock Lesnar versus Omos. That is going to be a match at WrestleMania. That is the most random match that I have seen. I'm sorry. That is the most fucking random match that I have seen. Not only that, it looks like a match that Vince McMahon booked. I don't care what anybody says. That is a Vince McMahon type match. Like, Vince McMahon just, came from the ashes and all of a sudden just booked that match. What the hell? That's a match I'm not looking forward to at all. Brock Lesnar, basically the whole gist of this whole segment is, will Brock Lesnar accept the challenge of Omos? Brock Lesnar sits at the VIP lounge, and MVP basically hasn't envisioned all of this. Brock says, "Good evening, Michigan," and his apologies for being early, but he asks MVP to join him. Brock says he has no beef with him. He is all business. We got a bunch of Suplex City chants. He is here for business, and he wants to listen from his VIP lounge setup. He wants him to sell the people and Brock Lesnar a fight. Brock says he can come into the ring. Brock says no suplexes tonight. He wants him to have a seat. They then both have a seat, and then Brock tells him what he does best: do business with him. And then MVP says that he is the beast incarnate. He's basically kissing his ass at this point. He had his hands full when the Almighty, and he wasn't in his corner. And yet, for some reason, he thinks he can have his way with Omos. The beast can destroy any man, but a giant can beat a beast. He can't beat Omos. Brock says that was good. He has goosebumps. After that, he gives him a high five. You know what, MVP? That was damn good. You know what? He accepts his challenge. But they need to shake on it and drink on it. MVP shakes his hand. And then Brock says that he is a baller. MVP, no, he says no. MVP says that basically Brock says that MVP is a baller, and Brock says that he is a farmer. He has the good stuff. You see here, Brock Lesnar versus Omos at WrestleMania, and he has his drink. And I completely forgot what Brock Lesnar named that drink, but he basically drinks his drink. MVP wants to toast with the champagne, and then it looks like Brock is getting pissed, and he says, no, we are drinking White Lightning. And he somewhat threatens him, and MVP, basically gets the drink because Brock Lesnar is basically making him drink the drink. He doesn't want MVP to drink the champagne. He wants him to drink the White Lightning. After that, MVP actually manages to drink the drink. And what happens is, by accident, he has this weird look on his face, and by accident, he spits the White Lightning all over Brock Lesnar. MVP gets so scared that he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let me clean you up. But all of a sudden, what happens? Brock Lesnar F5s the shit out of MVP, and the segment is over. What are my thoughts on this segment? Overall, I am not very much excited for Brock Lesnar versus Omos. Brock Lesnar versus Omos. The most random match that I have ever fucking seen in my entire life, in my opinion. Honestly, let's be real here. Again, I talked about this, before I went through with this segment, but Brock Lesnar versus Omos feels like a match that Vince McMahon would book. That is clearly a match that Vince McMahon would book. I can't. There is no freaking way that Triple H was like, yeah, Brock Lesnar versus Omos should be a great match to see. I'm sorry, but that match is way off, in my opinion. I clearly expected a rematch between at least Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. But then before that Bray Wyatt promo that happened on the Go Home SmackDown before the Elimination Chamber, I was like, yeah, it looks like they're not going to be doing that at WrestleMania. I would have much rather had Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania instead of having Brock Lesnar versus Omos at WrestleMania. I mean, the match, you already know how the match is going to be. It's going to be a very, very slow match. You're going to have Omos try to fucking chokeslam the shit out of him. You're going to have Brock Lesnar trying to F5 him. You know what they really want? They just want Brock Lesnar to F5 a 7-foot tall, giant of Omos. That's what they basically want him to do. They want him to F5 Omos. That is the moment that WWE wants Brock Lesnar to do. But again, I genuinely feel that Omos versus Brock Lesnar is a match that Vince McMahon would book, and I am not very interested whatsoever when it comes to this match. We got one thing that was actually pretty good on the show, that being Cody Rhodes. Of course, he is the winner of the 2023 Men's Royal Rumble match, and he will go on to face Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania 39. He faces one half of Alpha Academy, Chad Gable. This match, even though it was not really a long match, this match was actually relatively good. But of course, the true story is not what happened during the match. It's what happened after the match. But let's go for a quick rundown of the match. Cody picks up Gable. We get a bunch of technical wrestling by both. Of course, both are amateur wrestlers, or they're basically cut from the same cloth. We get a boot by Gable. Gable goes to the top, and then he goes up to the middle rope. Cody goes for an inverted superplex, which looks really dope. Once we're back from commercial break, Cody applies the figure 4. Cody then goes for the springboard, but then he gets caught by Chad Gable in a German suplex. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. Gable then drops him down with what it looks like an inverted DDT. He goes to the top, and then he hits a moonsault. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. He takes Cody into the corner. After that, he hits a chop on Cody, but then Cody reverses. He then hits a chop. Gable then chops back. Both then exchange shots, but then both try to go for they basically try to reverse their own attempts at a hip toss, which looked pretty dope. But then Cody gains the advantage, and he takes Gable to the outside. Then immediately after he sends Gable to the outside, Cody Rhodes immediately goes for the tope suicida. After that, Otis gets distracted. But then Cody comes in because, of course, Otis is in another storyline with Maximum Male Models because Maxine wants to hire Otis into the Maximum Male Models. Cody comes in, he takes Otis. Basically, he kind of like poses with Otis, but then he takes Otis and he sends him over the barricade. What happens after that? In the ring, Cody Rhodes hits the Cody Cutter, and then he hits the Crossroads. And we got a cover, and Cody Rhodes wins the match. After the match, Cody Rhodes gets the microphone, and he says that we are 33 days away from WrestleMania. He has yet to stay in the same ring as Roman Reigns. But if Roman Reigns is on SmackDown this Friday, then he will be there too. So Cody Rhodes is going to be on SmackDown this coming Friday. Great. I've been very much looking forward to a face-to-face between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. You know, one thing that I am very much hoping for when it comes to this feud, we all know that the feud between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns is going to be a personal one. Of course, in that initial promo that Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman had, Paul Heyman went personal and talked about Dusty Rhodes' small stint in ECW back in 2000. They need to go further with that. They need to mention, Roman Reigns or Paul Heyman need to mention the fact that basically Cody Rhodes is just like his father. He competed against them. Mention AEW. Literally, mention everything. Mention everything. Go deep when it comes to this build because literally, we are literally, 33 days, as Cody Rhodes says, till WrestleMania, and we need, we need full build. What is the exact terminology? We need further storyline progression for this feud. And I think that they're doing that, but I feel like they could do more. And I feel like with Roman Reigns not being on television for some weeks is definitely hurting that. I genuinely believe that this Friday, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns are going to be delivering an absolute clinic on the microphone, and it's going to even further off the storyline between both Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. So I'm very much excited about that. We got a backstage interview with Baron Corbin. Talks about how ever since JBL left him, that things haven't been going his way. But immediately, Kevin Owens comes in and interrupts Baron Corbin. Of course, throughout these past couple of weeks, ever since JBL has left Baron Corbin, every time when he has a backstage interview, that being Baron Corbin, he always gets interrupted, and this week is no different. Kevin Owens comes in, and he says Jimmy and Solo and the Bloodline should be worried about the consequences. He said it for months. All he wants to see is the Bloodline fall, and he doesn't need help by doing that. See where I'm getting at? Of course, he's talking about Sami Zayn, as he stated last week on Raw, because of the fact that he doesn't want the help from Sami Zayn because he wants to do it all on his own. Again, I constantly stated this, man. If they had Jey Uso turn on Sami Zayn at the moment at the Elimination Chamber, we wouldn't. I don't want to say we're in a dud because we're really not. I think the storyline progression is going very well, but again, I feel like it could have. There was reports talking about how WWE is very worried about Sami Zayn heading into WrestleMania. I feel like if they had Jey Uso turn on Sami Zayn at that exact moment in Montreal, we wouldn't really be in that issue, or WWE themselves wouldn't be in that issue, considering the fact that WWE themselves got themselves in that issue. But, of course, this is progression of the storyline, of course, in the inevitable match that most likely, in my opinion, this match should main event WrestleMania Night 1, that being Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn taking on the Usos at WrestleMania. There's no buts or ifs. That match needs to main event Night 1 of WrestleMania because of the nature of how big the storyline is. There is no way that match does not main event the show. Why are you going to have another match, main event Night 1 of WrestleMania in which you have, how am I going to say it? Why would you have a match main event the show that is not as impactful as Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos at WrestleMania? It would make no sense for WWE to do that. So honestly, all bets are off. In my opinion, the main event for Night 1 of WrestleMania should be Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn taking on the Usos at WrestleMania. Asuka versus Carmella. Overall thoughts on this match. Pretty simple match at all. Of course, Asuka is going to be facing Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. Nothing really much happened in this match. Very interesting what happened after the match when Bianca Belair came out and Carmella basically pushed both of them. I hope to God that they don't insert Carmella in this match, but most likely they won't. Triple H's team is not that stupid. Both lock up. We get a spinning kick by Asuka. Asuka is in control over Carmella, but then Asuka grabs the foot of Carmella. Then Carmella later regains control. After when Carmella is in control, she goes for the moonwalking. After that, Carmella drives her into the corner, but then Asuka drives her knee. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. At this point, Carmella is on the outside. Asuka then chases her around in the ring. We get a kick by Asuka, and then Asuka misses and heads to the outside. We get a super kick by Carmella on the outside. Once we're back from commercial break, Carmella is in control over Asuka. She gets in the face of Asuka after that, but then Asuka regains control after slapping Carmella. She goes for a series of strikes, follows up with a German suplex after that. She then hits a sliding knee onto the outside from the apron. Asuka then goes to the top, and then she misses the shotgun dropkick. She then hits a super kick. We get a cover and a near fall. After that, Asuka goes for the inside cradle, followed by a jackknife pin attempt. Then after that, Carmella counters with the head scissors, but then Asuka transitions into the arm bar. Asuka wins the match. After that, Asuka grabs the microphone and she calls out her WrestleMania opponent, of course, that being the Raw Women's Champion, Bianca Belair. Bianca comes out, and she's here to remind her that she is the EST of WWE, but all of a sudden, Carmella pushes both Bianca Belair and Asuka. Where does this lead to? I have absolutely no freaking idea at all. Is there any progression when it comes to this feud between Asuka and Bianca Belair? Honestly, I do not think so. I mean, what really was this? I mean, all they were doing ever since Asuka won the Elimination Chamber, all they were doing is just facing off, and that is it. Nothing else. We need to have back and forth promos between these two. Now, granted, there's nothing really much you could do because really the strength of Asuka is more of her, her in-ring ability. But again, man, give me something. I'm tired of these face-offs and just like normal shit. Like I want more. And I feel like they're both capable of doing that, but like, they're just not really giving me much. But overall, I think, we're probably going to get some more build later on. But overall, what are my thoughts on Asuka versus Carmella? Nothing really that interesting. Carmella gets the loss. What is she going to be doing after? I have absolutely no idea. It looks like they're going to be teasing a tag team between Carmella and Chelsea Green, but we're going to have to wait and see. We have Candice LeRae versus Piper Niven. Piper is in control over Candice. Oh my God, I literally messed up my camera. My bad. She's in control over Candice. She picks up Candice after that. Piper then tries to escape, but then Piper misses a drop down on Candice, or I should say a senton on Candice. We get a cover by Piper and a near fall. Later on, Candice goes to the top, but then Piper Niven takes her to the outside. Piper then pushes Nikki across onto the barricade. Once they're back in the ring, Candice LeRae goes for the roll-up, but then wins a match in shocking fashion. Again, random match. Who cares? I'm not really that interested. We get the Miz TV segment, WrestleMania edition. Of course, I'm talking about Miz TV. And last week, Maurice gave The Miz a gift, a special gift to The Miz. And he's going to be revealing that gift this week on Raw. So Miz states that we are on the road to WrestleMania. And before he brings out his celebrity guests, he talks about Maurice and the anniversary gift that she gave him last week. He would reveal what it said. They have been married for 9 years, and she is the gift that keeps on giving. And she introduces, or I should say he introduces his guest. And who is the guest? It's none other than The Miz himself. The Miz will be the host of WrestleMania 39. What is up with these hosts of WrestleMania? What is the point of the host of WrestleMania? Honestly, what is the host of WrestleMania? Are they memorable? Like, honestly, like, there's just, what is the point of the host of WrestleMania? Honestly, I'll tell you the answer. There's no point whatsoever. It makes no sense. Why should there be a host of WrestleMania? I understand WrestleMania is a big show, but like, really, what is the point of having a host for WrestleMania? It just makes no sense. All right. He says, who else could be a monumental event? You know, Logan Paul. It's WrestleMania goes Hollywood, not WrestleMania goes YouTube. This WrestleMania will go viral. But then all of a sudden, Seth Rollins comes out. And of course, for the past 2 weeks, Seth Rollins has been raining on The Miz's parade. Seth Rollins actually beat The Miz last week, I believe, with 3 curve stomps. So he comes out. The fans, of course, are singing his song. Miz gets pissed off. Says that he stomped him 2 weeks ago because he was being a jerk. Or I should say, Seth Rollins basically tells Miz that he stomped him 2 weeks ago because he was being a jerk. And he stomped him 3 times last week because he was being a beehole. And he had a favor to ask him. He's been trying to get a hold of Logan Paul. It's been a little difficult, but since he taught him everything he knows, he sure is going to have him on speed dial. And Miz, he wants basically Miz to call him, but then Miz refuses. He says Logan is his problem, but then Miz rants and raves. All of a sudden, Seth Rollins hits a super kick on The Miz. After that, Rollins grabs Miz's phone. Logan Paul picks up the phone on FaceTime, and what happens? He Seth Rollins mentions Jake Paul. Of course, Jake Paul lost his boxing match a couple of days ago, and he wants Logan Paul on Raw next week. And Logan actually accepts, and Logan has this just weird, scared look on his face. And then Rollins says, bye-bye, bitch, and hangs up. So we're going to be getting Logan Paul next week on Raw, of course. That is going to progress their WrestleMania match that they are going to be having at WrestleMania. I think the match is going to be absolutely fantastic, in my opinion. You know, say what you want about Logan Paul, and trust me, there's a lot of things that you can say about Logan Paul, but the one thing that you cannot deny about Logan Paul is Logan Paul, when he steps foot in that ring, he can go. Like, he can literally go. He's very good at what he does. And I think the match he's going to have with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania is going to be very good. Is it the match that I want to see, honestly, when it comes to a Seth Rollins match at WrestleMania? No, but, you know, they're going to give us what they give us at the end of the day. But it's a match that I'm actually looking forward to for WrestleMania. Bayley, backstage interview with Io Shirai and Dakota Kai, talks about how Io Shirai, or Io Sky, and Dakota Kai are the greatest champions of WWE, and says that they are the story. Austin Theory then comes in and says everybody is talking about John Cena. He talks about his hustle, loyalty, and respects. He has been hustling, and he has a lot of respect for John Cena. But hopefully he can give that respect back to him. John Cena will be returning on Raw next week. It's pretty obvious what they are going to be leading to. If Austin Theory is mentioning John Cena on a week-to-week basis at this point, and you have John Cena returning on Raw next week, clearly they're going to be setting up a match between Austin Theory and John Cena at WrestleMania. It's pretty obvious it's going to happen. And this was definitely in the rumor mill ever since SummerSlam. I remember they wanted to build, because I remember John Cena having his 20th anniversary segment on Raw, and I believe they did film a backstage segment with Austin Theory. It looked like they were going to have a match at SummerSlam, but that never went forward, so it looks like they're going to basically rekindle those plans, but not for SummerSlam, but for WrestleMania. I'm excited. Elias versus Bobby Lashley. This match, it was basically a squash match. We got a spear by Lashley, and then he applies the Hurt Lock, and he gets the win. Bobby Lashley gets the microphone, says that he isn't in a good mood right now. He owned Brock Lesnar at the Chamber, and instead of escaping the Hurt Lock, he went for the low blow. But he wants more. After proving his dominance over Brock Lesnar, he has Bray Wyatt playing his little kid games. But he don't play little kid games, because he is the Almighty. So Bray Wyatt, keep my name out of my mouth, or I will hurt you. After that, he leaves the ring, but what happens as he walks down to the stage, all of a sudden you got random just shit happening on the Titantron regarding the White Rabbit and Bray Wyatt, all that stuff, and it shows a video package of Bray doing a little dance-off. Very cringeworthy stuff, but it's Bray Wyatt. What do you expect? And at the end of that video, it shows the, of course, Bray Wyatt logo. What are my thoughts on this? Again, this is another one of those matches that just come off so random to me, in my opinion. You know, we first have Omos versus Brock Lesnar. That is a match in and of itself that I do not want to see at WrestleMania. But at the same time, we also got we got Bobby Lashley versus Bray Wyatt. That is the most random match that I have ever seen booked for WrestleMania. It's just so random. Like, in what world does does Bray Wyatt have to do with Bobby Lashley, or vice versa? That is the interesting part, and that is what doesn't intrigue me at all about this match. Like, these guys have no chemistry with themselves whatsoever. So I have to ask you guys this question. What is the point of this match? And there's one simple answer to that. There is no point to this match. That's all I'm going to say. This match is just the most random match that I have seen booked for WrestleMania. Now, it's not official yet, but that is the route that they are going. We got Adam Pearce with Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green continues to bitch and moan. After that, she's continuing to complain. Carmella comes in, complains as well. Adam Pearce actually gives her a match. I completely forgot what he stated. He gets the phone, and he rushes out. But all of a sudden, you have Carmella and Chelsea Green kind of interact with one another. I believe they interacted last week as well. Are we possibly going to be seeing a tag team with Chelsea Green and Carmella? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Otis versus Johnny Gargano. Johnny Wrestling. Pretty short match overall, but it was fine. Pretty random in my opinion. We get a shoulder tackle by Johnny on the outside, but then Otis no-sells it. Otis goes for a splash on Johnny Gargano. We get a kick by Gargano, followed by a back elbow. Otis then runs shoulder first into the corner. Gargano then goes for a series of clotheslines, but then Otis no-sells them. Otis then picks him up, but Gargano escapes. He hits a series of drop kicks by Gargano on Otis, and then we get a super kick by Gargano on Otis, but then Maxine Dupree is on the outside. Otis then turns around, but then Gargano gets caught by Otis, and then he drops him onto the announce table. And then after that, Massey and Mansoir get involved without the referee looking. But then what happens? Out of nowhere, Dexter Lumis interferes. Gargano then goes for the kick, hits the DDT on Otis, and then Gargano hits the DDT cover, and Gargano gets the win over Otis. I believe next week he will be wrestling Finn Balor. It's either Finn Balor or Damian Priest. I completely forgot. But that match is going to be an absolute banger. That's for sure. But it gives somewhat Johnny Gargano something to do, in my opinion. Paul Heyman. We got a backstage interview with the Bloodline's wise man, Paulie Dangerously, Paul Heyman. We got a backstage interview with him. He says Cody Rhodes will be on SmackDown. He likes it. He's excited. WrestleMania season is his favorite time of the year. Paul then gets corrected by Kathy Kelly and says Cody is a Raw talent. So basically, Cody will invade Friday Night SmackDown this coming Friday. And he basically brings up the ante, or I should say, let's up the ante. This Friday, Cody Rhodes will confront Roman Reigns. Or this Friday, Cody Rhodes will be confronted by Roman Reigns. That is very interesting words. At the end of the day, we know that Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns are going to face off with one another. It is pretty obvious at this point. But it's very interesting as we head towards WrestleMania. Again, I talked about this earlier in the review. I am very curious to see what they are going to be doing for Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. Because, again, the build has a lot of potential. And I feel like they tapped into that potential, but not as much. I feel like we need interaction between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Like, we already had the interaction with Paul Heyman and Cody Rhodes. That was step one. Now we need to go to step two, that being the interaction between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Let's see how it plays out. And again, they need to go like full-blown personal with this. They started it with the Paul Heyman and Cody segments, but again, they need to go further down. They need to start telling Cody's story and where he has been. They need to compare Cody Rhodes to his father about, he competed against us, blah, blah, blah. They really need to bring out Cody's story, and that's what's very important about this whole thing, because at the end of the day, this whole story between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, it centers around one thing, and it centers around the story of family. We got the main event for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Becky Lynch and Lita, the WWE Hall of Famer, wrestled Dakota Kai and Io Sky in the main event. What are my thoughts on this? I thought them bringing in Lita was, again, I know I throw the term random constantly, especially on this review. But I have to say it. When Lita returned at the end of that steel cage match, it was the most random thing that happened on the show. Literally, nobody expected Lita, but again, it was just so random, just nobody really cared, in my opinion. And that is nothing against Lita. I'm a huge fan of Lita. I think she's great. But again, it was just the nature of the booking of everything. What are my thoughts on Becky Lynch and Lita winning the Women's Tag Team Championships? I'm not surprised. They're going to be having some sort of match at WrestleMania. A lot of people are saying they're probably going to be wrestling Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. I don't think that's going to be the case, but if that's the case, honestly, I pray to God that they don't put the belts on Ronda and Shayna. But again, really, that's a match I don't really want to see. But again, the question that I have to ask when it comes to Becky Lynch and Lita winning the women's tag team titles is, what is their direction going to be? Are they going to drop, if Lita's a Hall of Famer, she's a part-timer, she's not full-time. So I know for a fact, most likely they're going to be dropping those titles, but it's going to be very interesting. What role does Trish Stratus play in this scenario? Because she did interfere in the end of this match by attacking Bayley as well. Could that lead to a match between Bayley and Trish Stratus? This is just me creating speculation. Don't take my word for a grain of salt, because probably 99 or 97, at least 97%, I'm probably wrong. But again, what role does Trish Stratus play? Is it just going to be a one-off, or what is happening? We do not know. But let's get on with the match. The match starts. Both lock up. We get a shoulder tackle by Becky. Lita tags in. Dakota tags in. Lita tags in when we get a pop. Well, actually, no. When Lita tags in, she gets a pop from the crowd. Both lock up. We get a takedown by Dakota. She tries to hit the twist of fate, but Dakota quickly tags Io Sky. Then Lita tags Becky. Both Lita and Becky go for the double suplex. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. Becky then proceeds to work on Io Sky. She then tags Lita, but then both babyfaces work on Io and Dakota. Both take them out in each corner. We get repeated rights by both heels. Lita then goes to the top, but then Io rolls out of harm's way. Becky then goes for the senton on both Io and Dakota onto the outside. Once we're back from break, the babyfaces are in control. Becky Lynch then goes for a leg drop on Dakota Kai. After that, Io comes in, but then Becky takes them both and hits a double DDT on both members of Damage Control. We get a kick by Becky, but then Becky is on the top. He drops her down, and we get a cover and a near fall. She tries to apply the disarmor, but then Io takes out Lita onto the outside. But then Io hits a springboard moonsault on Becky onto the outside. We get a cover by Io and a near fall. She goes for the dropkick, but then Damage Control are both in control over Becky Lynch. We get a cover by Dakota and a near fall. Dakota then goes for the scorpion kick on Becky. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. Becky Lynch tries to tag in Lita, but then Dakota pulls her back. Dakota then sends her into the corner, but then Becky tries to take out both Dakota and Io. We got a double clothesline by both women. Becky then tries to tag in Lita, but then Lita gets pulled away by Bayley onto the outside. And then Damage Control drop down Becky. After that, we get a cover by Io and a near fall. But what happens? Trish Stratus' music plays, and she comes out. She takes out Bayley. After that, she hits a couple of right hands. She then hugs her best friend Lita after that. Lita goes for the head scissors, followed by the vertigo. We get a cover and a near fall. Lita then goes to the top, and then she tries to go for the moonsault, but then Io comes in. She misses the moonsault, but then Lita goes for the twist of fate. She goes to the top, but then Bayley comes in, but then Trish pulls her away. And then after that, Dakota tries to interfere, but then Becky comes in and applies the disarmor on Dakota on the apron. After that, off the top rope, Lita hits the moonsault, and we get a cover, and Lita and Becky win the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. What are my thoughts on this? Overall, this was a pretty good match overall, but again, what is the direction going to be when it comes to Becky Lynch and Lita being the Women's Tag Team Champions? I'll be the first one to tell you that Damage Control, I felt like there was a lot of promise for Damage Control, but let's be real here. I feel like the Damage Control experiment kind of went by the wayside, in my opinion. I'm not really that invested in what Damage Control is doing at this point. But overall, this wasn't a bad match. I just didn't really care much after they won the women's tag team titles. And honestly, I have no faith in the women's tag team titles because ever since those titles were introduced back in 2019, there was no direction. And I mean this wholeheartedly. No direction for those titles whatsoever. But yeah, that was that match. And Lita and Becky Lynch are your new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. But yeah, that is all I got for the Monday Night Raw review from February 27th, 2023. Overall thoughts on this show, again, a pretty boring episode of Raw, to be quite honest with you. Nothing really important, aside from Cody Rhodes, really happened on the show. I feel like a lot of the important stuff is going to be happening on SmackDown, to be quite honest with you. But again, those 3 hours of Raw are just dreadful in my opinion, especially from that 9 to 10 hour. It's literally the longest hour in the history of hours. It's insane. But overall, Raw was a pretty boring show, to say the least, at the end of the day. But yeah, that was my Raw review from February 27th, 2023. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Rick from the WrestleHavoc Podcast, signing out.